भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाखय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमां विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। जय जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Wherever you are, raise your hands and chant together. You could be on mute, but chant together. Hare Krishna,
Krishna
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 Krishna,
Krishna
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare Hare
Hare
Ram Hare
Ram,
Ram
Hare
Ram Ram
Ram,
Ram
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 Ram,
Hare
Hare Hare। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरं। हरि ओं तत्सत्। आनन्दलीलामय विग्रहाय हेमाभ्यदिव्यच्छविसुन्दराय तस्मै महाप्रेम रसप्रदाय चैतन्यचन्द्राय नमो नमस्ते। चैतन्यचन्द्राय नमो नमस्ते। चैतन्यचन्द्राय नमो नमस्ते। Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much for joining and for giving your valuable association. Um, Once again, I'm very, very grateful to all of you. And we are joining on Saturday. And today, our topic is healthy habits for a happy life. So, I'll give an example. Habits, like we all know, are very important, but I'll just start with an example. So, this morning, I I kept something for offering to the Lord, and I put tulsi leaf on this. So before 2 3 days, we happened to keep some food outside which was open, and because it is summer, there are some fruit flies that came in. Now these fruit flies are very active, and they want to attack any food that they get into. So what I have started doing is, whenever I have some food, see, the best way to avoid, I mean, you can also spray something, but like we want to try something natural. Like if you starve these food flies, then they disappear actually, right? So if there is any food that is there, I tend to cover it with a plastic, and then that's how like we preserve it. So this morning, I made a plate ready for offering. I covered it. I put tulsi on it, and I thought, okay, fruit flies will set. But before that, let me clean Lord's area where I will make the offering, and let me come back and take this plate and make the offering. So in the meantime, my daughter was getting ready for a class. So she came in. I said, see, Prasad is over there. Okay. So I told it's in the kitchen. And she she took the prasad, everything, she was done. And then I asked, did you eat? He said, yeah, I took that. I just transferred, like, okay, what you had in your offering plate, and I took it. So then I thought, like, okay, actually, what she transferred was what I had kept for offering. She thought it was already prasad. She transferred it and she took it. Okay. So then I thought, oh, you took that one? That one I had kept ready for offering. But on a regular day, what I do is anything that is with tulsi leaf, she thinks that okay, this is already offered, and she takes that. So as a regular convention, it is her habit to transfer anything which has a tulsi leaf. And so she did exactly what she was supposed she has been doing. Okay, but she did not notice that there was already another prasad plate which was out there. Where does this come from? It comes from habit. Now I have heard from His Grace Radhesham Prabhu, he says this wonderful example. There is one guy who deals with this, watermelon. He's he actually stores those. He puts those watermelon in the trucks. So once they were forming a football team, and they called this guy like, "Hey, you, you can catch watermelon anywhere it comes." So we want you to be our goal key. Why don't you come and you join us in this football team? He said, like, but I have never played this this football. He said, don't worry, we have seen your talents. You are very talented, and we know you can catch watermelon. Just think that this is the watermelon that is coming. Okay. So he was put in, and there was a tough shot. Very fast came in, he caught it. But as soon as he caught it, he came and he immediately threw it on the goal. Why? Because that was his habit. Because any watermelon he would catch, he would throw it in the truck. So this is the power of habit. Now, if you see that, if you see the definition of habit, if you just Google habit, and if you see what the Oxford Dictionary says, it's it's a I will just mute everyone just so that, like, okay, there's no background noise. So if you see the Oxford Dictionary, the it says the meaning of habit is a settled or uh, a settled behavior or a regular tendency, okay, and or a practice that is something sometimes hard to give it up, right? So we all encounter habits within us which are difficult to sometimes give it up, right? So I would like you to carefully observe what I'm showing you now. And just as you watch this, I want you to observe this carefully. What is exactly happening? Because I'll ask a question right after this. Okay? Are you all ready? So just make sure that, okay, you have somewhat sound also in this so that you can hear this as we go through this experience. Just stay tuned. So I hope all of you got a chance to observe this carefully. Do any of you have you observed like what was happening there? Anyone wants to share what you observed? At least share. So there were two. You saw like okay, there were two persons with different types of habits. At the end of it, you saw like okay, this one person got like okay, he became fat and he had pimples on his face, right? Anything you want to share? What were the observations that you had? Any of you can raise your hand. Yes, Shyamakranamai. This is for everyone actually, because if you are observing, then only like, okay, it matters as to how much you've observed, then you can apply this. If you are here but you are not observing, then you may be missing out on like the core thing of the session. Yes, Shyamakranamai.
Hare Krishna. So I observed that there were two options. There were two persons, and one person, he was waking up early. Then he had option of like for breakfast he had options. One was having some junk food and some some cold drinks and stuff, and the other option was having some healthy like fruits and such kinds of items for the breakfast. Then when they are in office, one person was constantly just using or like going through social media, and the other person was focusing on his work. then um, uh, then given an option, there was option for gymming, so exercising and healthy activities, and the other person was kicking the gym bag. And then Instead of gymming, the other person opted for going out with friends, partying till late, and taking intoxication, and was feeling very tired.
Okay,
Whereas the
one
other
second,
person,
Shyamakranamai. Yeah, thank you, Shyamakranamai. Mataji, before you proceed, I want to ask, does anyone else have any other things to share? None of
Hare
you?
Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes.
So I saw in the video like how small habits and discipline help them transform their life to a total different paths. I mean, like I really understood the power of habits and discipline in this video.
So, what were those habits? What were those? What Shyamakranamai Mataji was saying? What did you observe? Like, what were those habits?
Like in the both habits I saw, like okay, one was very disciplined, like as Mataji said, like he was getting up early, he
Yes.
was taking
Tell
care
me
of his
something.
diet,
Yeah, tell me
his
something about
exercise.
what has not been said because there were about 8 to 10 habits. Yes, thank you, Nandini Premadaji. Nandini Premadaji just said one. One was listening to the news and to that music, and another was listening to the audiobook. What else? There were still more. No one has anything else? Okay, I will call out actually. Amrish, did you hear anything? Did you see anything? Yes, Nandini Priya Mataji remembered one more thing, one more this person was attending to the phone calls. Okay, he was while he's at office, his friends will call and he will attend those each calls. The other one, he was focused at his work and he kept rejecting those calls because at that time he wanted to be focused. Okay, all right. So let's see. So one of them, like if you saw, one of them was always focused on his to-do list. Whereas for the other one, like, did you see that the work was getting piled up for him side by side? Then, so this guy was getting his work done. Another guy was not getting was work done. As Shamakrunami Mati said, like one of them was always focused on this social media, like Facebook, whereas the other one he was focused in doing whatever are his assigned tasks. That's how he was getting done his to dos. So as Meksham Prabhu was telling, that it is very, very important, like what our habits are, and these habits play a very important role in our life. I'll give you one example. Um, so um, in the many people, how these habits take shape, like there is a lot of it that goes back to the roots, right? So if you see, um, like this, cows and buffaloes, many people have cow milk, many people have buffalo milk, right? So if you see, the Vedic ways goes to say that, okay, the cow milk, one who has consumed cow milk is more alert in nature, more assimilative in nature. And how does that come in? Because if you see, it goes, if you look at the calf, as soon as a calf is born, okay, this calf, within 2 hours, this calf will be jumping around like, okay, here and there, and doing and doing all the naughty activities, also coming and like, okay, getting the milk from the cow. Okay, but for a buffalo's child, it takes 2 days. The buffalo's child is very like is sleeping for the first 2 days. It's not able to get up. So after 2 days, also it once it gets up, after that, like, okay, it is not able to identify its mother. The calf can identify its mother among thousands, millions of cows also, but a buffalo's child cannot identify its mother. So one who is growing up drinking the buffalo's milk, okay, gets that nature actually right from the get go. Whereas the cow's milk, like, okay, has the ability, one who is having that becomes more alert in nature. Now, because of ignorance, many times, like, okay, in cities we hear people saying that, okay, oh, buffalo's milk is easy to digest. But it's the complete other way around. So any like anyone who is having cow's milk, like, okay, they automatically get that consciousness actually, which is coming in. So consciousness plays a very, very important role, and most of us sometimes we do not realize how important this is. So let's get to, since we are talking about habits, let's take some examples right from our very childhood. Okay, if you see, like, during the childhood, like, okay, what will the parents tell that, okay, hey, come on, I want you to study, but what does the child want? The child wants to play all day, right? Child does not want to study. So is the child happy about it being asked to study? No. How many of you are there who would be very happy like being asked to study as a child, right? Is there anyone you want to raise your hand? Only Shama Karunamai Mataji is raising her hand. She has always wanted to study.
No, no.
So as a so as a child, no one wanted that. But what does the parents want? They want to study. Now, as they grow up, we see where the value is, right? uh, if you see children, as children, like everyone wants to watch TV all day. Okay, and TV watching, or like, okay, watching nowadays, it's going through the social media, or like, okay, going through the cell phones, makes them feel cool. But when exams comes, they realize they are fool. That's the challenge actually. And when it is time to get up in the morning, the best thing that we like in the alarm clock is the snooze button. Whereas like, okay, whereas like one who is actively getting up in the early in the morning, like, okay, trying to focus on things, one may or may not be a devotee, but if you see, there was a research conducted on the top CEOs across the world and the top world leaders. Okay, and it was found that they have a common practice, that is, they get up in the early in the morning and they start their day early. Those who are successful leaders, this is a very common trait. As we see in India, Narendra Modi, okay, he follows a very strict regimen actually. He has a very strict habit, like okay, getting up early in the morning and starting his day. That's how he gets his energy from. And so if you see, like if one there could be a pattern, like one likes to sleep all day, okay, and another person may be willing to get up early in the morning. So we can see, like okay, what what habits, traits, like okay, we fall under. um, Now I'll share this one slide, like okay, this is something nice, like okay, from the time that the smartphone has come, like okay, does smartphone actually serve the purpose, or is it swallowing our time? We have to think about it, like okay, if you see in the on a regular basis, where is it, where is it working? So if it's time for work, or if it's time for exams, like okay, are we trying to say no to the smartphone, okay, or we are helplessly being a victim of this smartphone? So this is something, some of the things to contemplate on. So what it makes us think is like okay, there are some right choices and there are some wrong choices. If you see spiritually also, if we look, we have a manufacturing date and an expiry date. It's called the birth date and the death date. Okay, so between B and D, B is birth and D is death. What do you have between B and D? We have C. C is choices. That is the choices that we make during this time determines the destination that we are going to go at the time of death. And what are those? Sometimes like okay, we may have good choices, sometimes we may have bad choices, right? So we have to see uh, what category do we fall under. I will show you some examples. So so there are some instinctive wrong choices. Okay, if a person is running only after, if mad after money, is passionate after money, then we can see how it how his life shapes into. Now see this mouse. This mouse fell into this trap thinking that okay, it is going to eat something. But as soon as it went to eat, tuck, the gate closes and it is trapped there. Similarly, many people okay, in their young, like see now how this mouse is struggling here now to get out. Okay, this is it is not just the mouse, but think about it, reflect about it in our own lives. Sometimes like, okay, we fall into such traps like, okay, thinking that okay, oh, I'll be happy like this. But then having said that, we get into this and we are in a trap. Sometimes in young ages, like, okay, some person falls in a trap of another of opposite sex. Okay, and thereby like, okay, they repent after that, like, okay, their entire life. This is important. So if you see, for example, Ravana was uh, like what was Ravana's choice? Like he created a moral blunder actually. He went to steal another person's wife. Okay, and Kumbhakarna, his brother, he thought that okay, it's my duty to brother is topmost. So he his thought was right in serving his brother, but he did not see whether his brother was on the right path or not. So that was ethically wrong, like in trying to support his brother. But Vibhishan, he was another brother. What he did, he thought that okay, my duty to Lord is more important. Whatever the Lord is teaching, like okay, I want to serve Lord, and I will not support this sinful brother. And who was eventually victorious? If you see who was more dear to Lord, it was Vibhishan. So making the right choices in life becomes very weak. Becomes very easy. It becomes very weak. Like, okay, if we are in the if we do not have the right understanding of the scriptures, it becomes very easy if we understand what our acharyas are saying, what are our scriptures saying. So we have to understand that. There are some of the things like so there are some reversible choices. Sometimes we end up being in quarrel, but there are some irreversible choices. So there are so many divorces happening these days. It's a terrible situation. Right? In America's statistics, if you see, every two out of third person are getting divorced. It's a terrible situation there. So, and if you see short-term bad consequences, someone may flunk in the exam. But long-term bad consequences is because of their character. They may be debarred from the uh, from taking tests, maybe from companies. Okay. So it is very, very important to know what are the right choices at all point of time and how do we take this easy or hard choices. One of the things I will show you one thing here. It is we always are faced with like a decision like whether to take the easy way or take the hard way. In the hard way, if we take the easy life, like, okay, so if we take the easy way, then it comes with a hard life. If we take the hard way, then it comes with an easy life. How do we let us let me show you something here. So just watch this carefully. So let me know if my screen is visible. Or it's not visible. Is it now visible? Watch this attentively. It's a very short clip. I want you to watch it again in case if you missed it. So did you see, like, okay, the one who is thinking, like, okay, let me take an easy path now. Okay, what will happen is it becomes hard later. But once one takes a hard path now, it becomes easy later. So the choice is on us. Which path do we want to take? So, and always the slant is not always like this. The slant is sometimes it's just like this. If you don't study for your exams, okay, and if you end up being the last minute, if you are a regular student, like, okay, you know how it is. You are always prepared, you are confident, and it can be an easy day for the exam. But if you have not prepared it, okay, and at the end of it, in the last moment, you fall sick, you can imagine how critical it could be. It may cost one their entire year. So these are the these are the various situations. I got this clip actually. This I thought, okay, I wanted to share with all of you. As I was telling about this easy and hard life, this was something as I was sharing, like, okay, you can see this one who takes easy decision. When it actually becomes hard life, they are unable to get up from here. But if one takes a hard decision in the initial course of life, then after that it would be a simple, easy life for them. So some of the things to contemplate on. So what is this easy or hard life? Okay, how do we understand this in our context? So let's take some examples so that we understand what is it in relevance to us. Let me do this. So you can see on one hand, you have someone who is eating for taste, okay, and on other hand, one is eating for health, okay. On one side, they're eating some fast food, like, okay, non-vegetarian items. The other side, they're eating like vegetarian, which are good for their stomach. I don't know how many of you know, but like, okay, if you're overall like whatever you're having, depending on the type of food that you have at the age of 40, 45, there are statistics which shows that, okay, slowly the colon starts getting affected. And these days there is a very high rise in the colon cancer, in general in cancer, for those who are having food which are processed in nature, which are like, let's say, restaurant food, like which have a lot of preservatives. This is the cancer is on the very rise actually. So similarly, like if you can you see my screen? Oh, I think it went away. Okay, so the choice of food is ours, and then like, okay, one has this tendency to gossip versus like, okay, one who is actively listening is a good listener. So we know like, okay, if one is gossiping, that's certainly not right actually. And we have heard this like in our previous class. Okay, this is also said by Albert Einstein. What is right is not always popular, and what is popular is not always right. Do you remember? Like, okay, we talked about this. Krishna does not go by the populistic vote. He goes by what is right. That's what he was telling. Because if you see, like, protecting the relatives, is that not, doesn't it look like a popular thing? But that is not right for Arjuna. That's how Krishna is guiding. And so here, these are some qualities of tamogun. So if someone is in tamogun, they are in alasya, they are always postponing things. So they're thinking, because they're always distracted, like, okay, time for a drink, time for a smoke, time for a nap. Okay, work can always wait. And whereas if one is not in tamogun, right, in that case, they're always done with their stuffs. Tamogun person, if you see, they're always in a depressed state of mind, because frustrated, because, oh, I need to get done this much. And if one isn't confident and cheerful, that isn't sattva gun. And tamogun person is always faced with indecision, confusion. We might see like, okay, some of these qualities we may have, we may observe it somewhere around, and we can understand that, okay, how these things that are coming from scriptures are so relevant. A person always faced with indecision, confusion, whereas for a person in sattvagun, their vision is very clear. We know Arjun's example, right? Arjun could just, he was so focused. And tamagun, like, okay, because they are not very actively doing things, they're always insecure and jealous. Whereas, like, okay, one who's in sattvagun, they're always appreciative of others. See, these are habits, traits which can change lives actually. A tamagun person is because they have left things. They may have not dealt with things on time, and when it comes to it, they become very panicky. Suicidal thoughts come. They are pramatta. They are in madness. And sattvagun, they're thoughtful. They're curious. This is this is another thing, like, okay, of person in rajogun, like very harsh speech, so very crazy about things. But a sattvagun person is very friendly in nature. So we have to think about where we stand, because we should not be judging others, but using this, we should see where we stand with respect to whatever our life is. See, we may have certain traits of habits, but that doesn't mean we cannot come out of it. In general, if I give you some overall view, this is how we can see, like, okay, a person in tamogun is in madness, laziness, and is intoxicated with sleep. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, if you see this part, Krishna says, like, okay, that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from beginning to end, and which arises from sleep, laziness, and illusion, is said to be of the nature of ignorance. What are the qualities of this? Inertia means, like, okay, they will not move forward to do things. Okay, inactivity. Okay, negative perception. Like, okay, apathy, dullness, dark, delusion, depression, ignorance. It is, see, then note, the important thing is, it is not that all of these will be active. if some of these are active or if one of these is active, that means like we may also have those traits. And it is not that a person will be fully in sattva gun or fully in rajogun or fully in tamagun. We switch around these, and it could be within the day we could be in sattva, rajo, and tamogun, all of this. But we have to carefully observe what are those traits in our habits where we are falling into those other traps of tamogun. Because being in tamogun, we will not be able to be successful and we will not be able to please the Lord. What are those qualities that we have to watch out for? So let's see this. Okay, see in this tamogun, it is called nidra alasya pramad. It is the qualities are oversleeping, laziness. We feel confused, inattentive. Like we take foolish decisions. We are sometimes indecisive, insecure, fearful. We are not able to think. Suicidal thoughts come in because we may have left things, and we are depressed and hopeless and sometimes intoxicated and mad. So these are some of the things that we carefully observe. Like, okay, if we are getting into these, then we have to see, like, okay, how do we deal with this? Rajas. Rajas is higher than Tamogun. But what is Krishna saying about this? That happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their objects and which appears like nectar at first but poison at the end is said to be in the nature of passion. So unlimited desires. Oh, I want to eat this. See, whatever are our senses, right? We want to we want to our senses get easily titillated, and we want to enjoy with those senses, whether it's from the eyes, whatever we are not supposed to see, we are seeing those. Whether it's from the ears, whatever we are not supposed to hear, we are hearing those. With our tongue, oh, I really want to eat this. Oh, this smells so good, because our nose is smelling that and I really want to get. So unlimited desires. Fruitive activity means like, okay, whatever our mind desires, we just go and fulfill that. An attraction between opposite sex. So its qualities are movement, activity, like they are very energy, they are very enthusiastic, like okay, excited to do things, like okay, very passionate. Okay, like you would see like many people like I want to be very ambitious, so they are fully ambitious. Desire, they are very agitated very easily. Anxiety, always in anxiety because they have such high targets that they are always in anxiety. And egotism, that means super high in ego. If you just hit something in their ego, they'll be fully blasted. So this is something to understand about the Rajogun. And the Rajogun nature is something like you would see that whatever I talked about, let me share some examples of these because you can correlate this. They're always like madly okay to do certain things. Like if you just annoy them, like, okay, then in that case they'll be like hell bent against you. They want to be always everyone to follow them, and someone is if someone is not listening to them, they are terribly offended. So basically, my way or highway. So, and they want to keep everyone on top of their toes. So, and they are super, super ambitious. They want to do so many things in life at the fastest pace. So, and they are always anxious because like, okay, they want to do so much. So, and you can see like, okay, when they get so much attracted like, okay, towards opposite sex, sometimes they come across different type of situations as well. So we can see like, okay, so in the corporate world, people are in the rat race like, okay, they just want to do things and be in the top of the game, not knowing that okay what they are up against. So we have to understand the nature of this type of things. They think, but they are partially thinking. They want to be credit takers. They are extremely workaholic until they get burnt out, and they are always in the rat race. So my spiritual master, His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, says that okay, if you are in the rat race, then no matter you are first or last, at the end of it, you are always a rat only. So they are always proud that okay, I know it, I got it actually. And if you see their general tendencies are very angry, always envious of their peers and subordinate, not at all comfortable with team playing, always have this bossing tendency. They want honor, they want prestige, controls using authority, and they want decisions quickly, fast. Everything should be. This is this is the mode of passion or rajogun. So we have to understand that if we have to come out of these, if we have slightest of this, we have to come to the platform of sattva gun, where we are able to access, like where we are able to remain happy. If we are in tamu or rajogun, we cannot be happy. So in the sattva gun, one, what Krishna says is that which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. Think about it. Like, is it really good to wake up in the early in the morning? If one is not used to it, it will not be easy. It'll be very difficult, and it will seem like a poisonous thing. If you tell them, okay, oh, come and like chant early in the morning, like okay, in the initial, like one will not like to do it. But as one starts practicing it, you can take a simple example, yoga or like okay, exercises. Like okay, one will not be willing to do that in the very beginning. It takes lot of endeavor for one to get started to do that if one is not used to it, right? Has any one of you experienced that? I know one person that that I have experienced in my life. What has happened is this person has, Amit Prabhu, you want to say something?
No problem. You can continue.
Were you saying the gym experience?
Yeah, Prabhu. The thing is like in the first and the beginning, it's like very hard for me, and till now I'm struggling, Prabhu, on the yoga session, for the yoga.
Yes, we are all struggling. But what is important is, are we struggling for the right purpose? That is the most important thing. See, struggle is fine, okay? But if we are not struggling for the right purpose, then there is a problem. My spiritual master always says this, that this material world is like an ocean, okay? And if one is struggling to head in the right direction, because everything is flowing in the negative direction, okay? If we are struggling in the right direction, then we are always trying to go across the ocean where the tide is taking us elsewhere. So when we are trying to get into the right direction, if we are trying to move in the direction of sattva, there will be a pressure that we have to apply. But if we just leave it, then what will happen is we'll go along with the tide. and and what are the qualities of sattva? Sattva is like okay, one who is trying to first of all come out of the sinful platform. So one is trying to get get to a point where they're understanding what is happiness, what is real happiness, what is knowledge, trying to maintain a balance. See, there is this tripod of happiness. What is the tripod of happiness? Tripod of happiness is like okay, for one who is working, they have to maintain their work, they have to maintain their family, and they have to maintain their spiritual environment, where they are able to keep a balance like, okay, between these three. If one pillar goes off, like, okay, then what happens? Like, okay, others will automatically tumble at some point of time, or it will be very disbalanced. So there has to be harmony, there has to be positivity, peace, there has to be clarity in what we are doing, and that comes through guidance. So the right intelligence is cultivated. So let us see, in as we went through these examples, we can see that okay, no matter who we are, we can understand that there will be some sort of relation we can correlate between this. We may have heard some of these things in the past, but it is very, very important that we, why is it important to do Shravanam? Why is it important to hear? Because sometimes these serves as reminders for us. So if you see what are the types, what are the qualities of this mode of goodness? Happiness and knowledge, sukham and jnanam, cleanliness, very important. So I was hearing from my spiritual master, okay, this last week, and what he was mentioning is, Param Pujya Radhanand Swami Maharaj, he was saying that cleanliness is so important. We ultimately want to cleanse our heart, but whatever we see outside is nothing but it's a manifestation of what is going on inside. So if we are clean outside, then in that case, when we are intensely trying to cleanse our inside, then that will manifest outside. In the mode of goodness, like, okay, we will be regulated, we'll have simplicity, we'll be thoughtful, we'll be more caring towards others, we'll be able to think well and decide, and this noble qualities will manifest actually. So, and in this, there is not only creative thinking, but it is realized wisdom, just the knowledge that we are, whatever we are gathering, when we try to apply that, right, then we get realizations. If we, someone asked me regularly, I there is one devotee who asked me that, okay, how can we be so blissful? How can we practice this? See, if we start thinking like, when we hear these classes, right? If we think that, okay, if we think, okay, I want to apply these 10 things, then we'll not head anywhere. Let us try to objectively identify it. I want to change these 5 things in my life. But which is the first thing I want to take? Okay, let me start with this one. And for the other two, I will start this, but at a lower pace. Let me monitor this number one thing. Let me do this next two things, and let me do this 4 and 5 later. But how do we arrive at that? We need some guidance, so that in Ayurveda it is said there are this food, there are this type of persons, Vat, Pitta, and Kapha. So if a Vata person takes a Pitta food, like, okay, one thing that is favorable for Pitta, then it may not be good for the Vata person. So how do we know which is good for us and which is not? Which one to prioritize or not? For that we need guidance. So, and which is why one who's in Sattva Gun, if you see the last one, it is obedient to scriptural injunctions. And how does he obey that? Through the guidance. He's friendly, he's tolerant, like, okay, has controlled senses, becomes compassionate. Okay, there is a discipline, there is an obedience. And that's how the person's mind becomes controlled, because he's not trying to do each and everything like in the world, right? So that's how it slowly starts developing those qualities. It becomes forgiving also in due course of time. So, like this, um, if you see, I want to share this, like, okay. So if we have a strong sense of love for the Supreme Lord, then we can discharge our duty and at the same time remember Him. So at all point of time, we have to think. This is very important. We have to think that, okay, for this activity that I'm doing, whom am I doing this for? Is this something that will give me pleasure, or is this something that will give pleasure to Krishna? If we are doing this for my pleasure, then what will happen is this activity may give me pleasure, but eventually it will give me pain. Why? Because remember, like we saw that for a material activity, it gives pleasure initially, but then it is like the rat. It will catch us in that trap, Maya's trap. And Maya is 24 by 7, very vigilant to observe what we are doing, how to put us in that trap. More than us, Maya knows us, like, okay, oh, what are the soft corners for this person whom I can really very smoothly pull and put in that trap. So, but if we are doing it for Krishna, even though we may not be able to execute it in the most perfect way. Krishna knows how to pull us from the trap of Maya, because Daivi Yeshu Gunamai Mama Maya Durataya. Krishna says, Mama Maya, this is my Maya. And one who takes shelter of Krishna, Krishna protects that particular soul. So we have to develop that sense of love. So, for instance, Arjuna, he was always thinking of Krishna. He was the constant companion of Krishna, and at the same time, he was a warrior. So Krishna did not tell him that, okay, oh, now Arjun, now you give up this fighting and go to the forest. You don't worry, I will take care of this. No, Krishna did not do that. What did Krishna do? Like, if we just, for a moment, if we just reflect on what was Krishna and Arjuna's relationship, if you see, um, Balram, who is Krishna's older brother, he thought, like, okay, he came to Krishna and said, Krishna, see, our this dear sister Subhadra is there, right? She's she has grown up, like, okay, she's of an age of marriage, and uh, we need a perfect groom for her. So Balram is telling Krishna that, Krishna, see, I have found a very good groom. There is no one better in the world than Duryodhan. And after all, he is my student also. Let us get married, Subhadra, to Duryodhan. And what did Krishna do? Krishna did not tell anything. Oh, his elder brother. दाऊ जी को कैसे ना बोल सकते हैं? He did not tell anything. What he did is, he said, okay, before this Dauji attacks my sister Subhadra with Duryodhan, let me make a plan. I think Arjuna is better for him. Arjun, you do one thing. You just take Subhadra and run away. I am giving you permission. You just run away with her. So, Krishna, can you just imagine the love that Krishna has for his devotees. Krishna is willing to do anything for his devotees. See, I told you guys earlier about, like, okay, how, like, in the war, Krishna is willing to get the kicks of Arjuna. Krishna is willing to have Arjun go and run away with Subhadra. So this is Krishna's love. I'll give you another perspective. See, a screw of a machine, if that screw is with the machine, like, recently I had this mixer grinder. So one of my mixer, like, okay, it went bad, and, like, I mean, the blade came out. So I was trying to figure out this screw, and this one of the parts of the the washer that is there. So that washer came out, so I could not find out that washer, and so I could not fix that one. So in US now, if you don't get that washer now, you are not going to get that. You need a new complete assembly. In India, if it is there, you will get that washer also. Someone will repair it. But the point I'm telling is, without that washer, now this entire part has come out. So far, till the day before, it was working everything, and as long as that those parts were assembled with that entire thing, it was working fine. It was most useful. But now that this individual parts have come out, even though that jar is also there, is it of much value? It's not of any value. It is disconnected now. It cannot be used. So similarly, a screw of a machine, okay, if it is lying individually, it's of not much value. But as soon as it's put in the machine, it's of value. If you just see this finger, okay, this finger, I'm just having something like some of those finger chips, or I'm having food with this finger, it is of use. But let's say this finger is suddenly disconnected and it is just cut down from the body and it's lying alone. Is that much of value? It's not much of value. Why? Because now it is disconnected. So similarly, Krishna says, Mamaiv Amsho Jivolake. Mamaiv Angsho Jivaloke. So all the jivas are angshas of Krishna. If we are connected to Krishna, because we are all part and parcel of Krishna, if we are connected to Krishna, eh, then our life is successful. If we are disconnected from Krishna, then like we are just like that finger disconnected from the body. Is it of much value? No, it's not of any value. So we have to think like, okay, that where do we stand with respect to this? At all times, we have to think that, okay, this activity that I'm doing, is this going to give joy to Krishna? If we think like this, then the Lord in our heart, who is sitting as Paramatma, he gets very activated. This guy is always thinking how he can please me. So he's very much interested in me. I have to protect him from Maya. So in this context, what Srila Prabhupada says, let's look at this. Srila Prabhupada says, we work not with our body, actually, but with our mind and intelligence. So if the intelligence and the mind are always engaged in the thought of the Supreme Lord, then naturally the senses are also engaged in his service. If I'm trying to think in every work, that okay, Amit Prabhu is sitting in the store, Meksham Prabhu is sitting in the store, they are thinking, okay, this, I'm doing this walking, I'm doing walking in the store. How can this walking be pleasing to Krishna? Okay, but at the same time, they're thinking, okay, Krishna, I just want to chant your name. Okay, at this time, I want to just hear your glories. Okay, and even while in the store, they are trying to hear Krishna Katha. They are making an endeavor there. Krishna is pleased with this as they're trying to hear this. So, and then Prabhupada says, superficially, at least the activities of the senses remain the same, but the consciousness is changed. So we are doing the same walking in the store, we are trying to sell the items in the store, but the consciousness which was earlier being done for my pleasure to Krishna's pleasure, actually we don't even think my pleasure. We just act in a way for our pleasure, because in this fast paced world, our thinking is completely, I mean, we don't realize that we are doing things for our pleasure. We have become so self-centered. And what is this Bhagavad Gita doing? The Bhagavad Gita teaches one how to absorb the mind and intelligence in the thought of the Lord. And such an absorption will enable one to transfer himself to the kingdom of the Lord. This is such a powerful point Prabhupada is making. If we are trying to absorb ourselves in the thought of Krishna, then that will enable us to transform to the kingdom of Lord. I'll give you an example. So, one can be, we are where our mind is. It's a very common saying. And some of us, like, okay, who are staying here, sometimes you may feel that, okay, we are here, but we are just thinking, okay, what is happening? Like we are probably here in US, or we are staying somewhere in India, but suddenly our mind goes back to our childhood. Oh, this friend, like, okay, I had a good time with this particular friend, and then it at my home, my mother used to make this thing for me, right? And then just by contemplating, although our mind is here, although our body is here, but our mind has raced back to the time, like, okay, few years back, or maybe in the same year, someone is thinking, okay, what will my mother be doing there, right? What will my other family members be doing there? That's how, like, when we think, our mind suddenly races back to that, and we are in that environment, although our body is here. Similarly, if we think about Krishna, whatever we are hearing, if we think about Krishna, like, how do I apply this? What is what is it that will really benefit us overall? If we think about Krishna at all times, it will really help us at every moment of time. How? Let's see. So because we, through these habits, we ultimately want to have a cool mind. And how do we have a cool mind? By having so many gadgets? No. See, like, if one has a very calm mind, then it will be like this. Okay, but if one is in a turbulent state, it will be like this. Where am I headed towards? Right? So, because, and in this case, sometimes you will see that the cognitive control, science says, that it knows that something is bad, but you can't stop it. I know this food is not good for me. I know ice cream is not good for me, but it knows it is it knows what is good and it can differentiate, but somehow it becomes offline when we are stressed out. Has any of you experienced this experience? I want to just see. Yeah, Nandini Priya Mataji says yes. Only Nandini Priya Mataji has experienced. No one else has experienced this. I think you all are very controlled man. Oh, okay. Make sure saying that. So, okay, Shama Karnami Mataji also. So Krishna says in this context, very, very important. Krishna says that for him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. Mind is satayega from all directions. Mind will really, really challenge. Like, okay, and what does the mind do? I'll give you some examples of the mind also because it is very, very important how these habits can change us. Like, okay, so mind, it has this habit like, okay, it wants to just wander from one place to another, right? It constantly wants to swing between past and future. How do we know this? Just sit to chant like, okay, 5 minutes, think like, I want to remain focused. But mind will take you to past or mind will take you to future. If I could do that, oh, what happened? What did they tell me? Oh, this person is going through so much. What do I do? Right? It will always take you like this. And and there is always this good dog and bad dog always fighting. If we are trying to see that okay, slowly our mind is trying to come out of this, we have to understand it is only purely by it cannot happen just like that. There is something happening. What is that happening? We have to understand that generally our mind is like okay, we are stressed out, we are this state actually, and mind might say oh, it will be nice to jump from here, but the intelligence will say last time you jumped it hurt, so jumping, and that was only a little bit height, but this time if you jump from here it can kill you, so you don't end up jumping, right? So mind and intelligence plays like this. And what is it that actually is driving this mind? So we have to understand this science, very, very important. It's coming from the Katha Upanishads there in the Bhagavad Gita, that the five senses that we have, they are just like the horses. And the mind is just like the reins, the ropes with which the horses are controlled. And the intelligence is nothing but the the intelligence is the driver. And this driver, what he is doing is the driver is controlling the mind, which is further controlling the senses. If, for instance, let's say if we get driven by the senses, what happens if the horses take control on it and horses go anywhere and everywhere that they want to go, but the driver has no control? What will happen? Can anyone tell? You can unmute and share. What will happen? Can you see if you are in that situation in that driver, but the horses goes out of control? What will be will it be a wonderful situation?
No problem.
Right? What will happen then?
Will fall down.
We'll fall down. We'll meet with an accident. Absolutely. So we have to question this. Am I being driven by my mind and senses, or am I the controller? This is the most important question to ask at every point of time. Is this driven by my mind, or am I deciding this? Is this coming? So what is this under control? Okay, this thing, like, okay, the way your mind plays this role, that is very, very important. Because, and how does your mind play this role? How do you get to that point? That is, how do you prepare your mind for taking the right decision? That is by taking the right association. How do we prepare our intelligence? That is from the scriptures and from the acharyas. When we hear this katha, what will happen is it will sharpen our intelligence. That way we are able to discriminate what to do, what not to do. If we, what really we have to focus on and what we should not be focused on. So it is when we come to focus, it is very important that we focus on what we can control rather than what we cannot control. Let's take an example of this. 10 things that we can control. Okay. So, so if you see this diagram on the right hand side, it says that, okay, I can control my words, I can control my behavior, I can control my personal hygiene, I can control how much I try to get good sleep and exercise. Okay, I can control what I am looking on my cell phone. I can control what food I want to take. I can control what I want to ask for support. I can control what are the fun things I want to try. But I cannot control what other people do, what other people think of me. I cannot control the news. Is there a value in seeing the news which I cannot control? No. I cannot control what other people say or they do. I cannot control my time. Time is out of my control, right? I cannot control like what will happen next. I cannot control whether others are following what I want them to do. I cannot control fixing the mental health struggles of others. Controlling the weather is outside of my control. If you think, just very coolly, calmly think about it. These things that we cannot control, these become the cause of our lamentation at many times. How many of you would agree? Right? These become the cause of lamentation. Most of the time we are subjected to these things which really causes lamentation. So so we have to prioritize like, okay, what we can control, what we cannot control, and how do we do this? There is this very beautiful example, what we are feeding into our mind. If we are feeding garbage in, right, then garbage only goes out. But if we are giving good in, then good only will go out. So we have to think that, okay, what exactly are we feeding our mind at all times? See, our mind is very, very, it's a dangerous animal. If it is not tamed, if it goes outside of control, then it is like those horses. It will take us in any direction. But if it is tamed well, then in that case, it can it can really take us to unlimited success. So, what are the things that we can do? What is this? How do we apply this GIGO rule that we talked about? It works on where does this mind get these inputs? It depends on the kind of books we read, the kind of movies we watch, the kind of music we hear, the kind of friends we keep. This at all times really, really nourish or they take the mind to lower levels. So, so there is a very simple method that we can do. We can we can apply this sustain and abstain method. Starve our bad habits. So abstain from bad people and bad objects. Supplement with good habits. We cannot we sustain with good association. We give good objects to sustain through introspection, self-correction, and then we stay away from tempting environment and association. Sometimes like okay, we may be trying to come out of a bad habit. Okay, but we if we are in that environment of that bad habits, then it will be very difficult to come out of that. Okay, when we see that okay, someone else is doing something which we are trying to come out of, then we might get tempted. Even if we are in that bad environment, like, okay, and if we are struggling very hard, then in that case, it really, really, uh, it really, really helps us um, if we come out of that actually. So I just want to summarize few things. We talked about like okay, we talked about habits. We talked about like okay, the different um, the different gunas, sattva, rajo, tamo guna. We talked about all the different aspects of the uh, sattva, rajo guna. That way we can understand where we stand. We also talked about the examples of the rat, how it was faced, the wrong choices, right? Like, and the opposite sex. And then we also talked about the example of the Ravan, Kumbhakarna, and Vibhishan. We went through the some of the short-term bad consequences versus the long-term choices. We talked about the easy and the hard decisions that we take in life, how it impacts us in the future, how these different gunas can be very, very sometimes very frustrating for us, how we can come out of that, what is um, we talked about the example of Arjuna and Krishna, their love, how we can think about Krishna at all point of time. And if our mind is uncontrolled, we talked about like, okay, if it is very turbulent, how it can be dangerous, like, okay, and it takes us, right? We talked about the example of the ship, and we also talked about the brain, like, okay, how sometimes we know that things are bad. If our mind is uncontrolled, it is unable to control things, and how this good dog and bad dog plays. And ultimately we came to the point when we talked about how the mind is being controlled with the senses. If we are not active with the intelligence, then we will be really driven by that. So um, so in this entire example, one of the things I think I forgot to mention is when I was talking about the mind and senses example, the, in the chariot, like, okay, in the example of the horses, the mind, the horses are the senses, the mind is the ropes, and the driver is the intelligence, and the actual chariot that is there, that is the soul, okay, that the intelligence is taking in the journey. So it depends on like whom we give the complete rights to take the chariot. If we lead the horses, everyone will go different side, and the chariot may break also. So similarly, like, okay, if we are also not very careful, then in that case we may end up like, okay, damaging our overall soul, and that way our overall happiness. We also talked about like, okay, things that we can control, that we cannot control, um, and the ego principle. So through this we finally came to the point when we talked about the sustain and the abstain method. So all of these like, okay, we can achieve like, okay, by doing the, how do we really harness the mind power? We talked about this earlier also, but it is again important to remember that through four things: A, B, C, D. A is association, B is books, C is chanting, and D is diet. Association of exemplary devotees or those who are aspiring to be sincere, books, Srila Prabhupada books, chanting, and then diet is taking prasadam. If we are not, I recently came across one devotee. So our two of our devotees, they are now trying to offer and have. So one of them told me the experience how blissful it is, and another devotee who was struggling to cook, he shared that okay, like whatever he would make earlier was not very nice. And I said, look, why don't you offer and try it? And he said, okay, whatever. When I started offering, it tastes at least eatable. Earlier, it was not very edible. So I did not get the confidence earlier to cook. I personally had this experience where when I used to cook, it would be terrible when I used to cook for myself. But from the time I started offering to the Lord, I could see that it is by Lord's mercy, those things which I did not know, I never thought I could cook anything. Okay, but the Lord is so merciful. If they want us to do something, they will empower us in whatever way. And that's where Krishna says that, okay, um, I don't remember the verse from Bhagavad Gita, but this is the one like, okay, um, where Krishna says that, okay, for one, um, like Krishna actually empowers and he preserves whatever qualities we have, and he gives us those qualities which we lack if we are constantly thinking about him. So let us try to take this takeaway that okay, how we can think about Krishna at all times. Let us try to reflect on some of these qualities that we talked about, because um, always remember, like, okay, the core theme that we started with, that is when we saw that video about habits, this is something which should really inspire us from within. Am I taking, like, are my habits clean? Are my habits good to take me, inspire me to go towards Krishna or not? Because if we really want to, and what is the advantage of, like, okay, taking up to this Krishna consciousness? That is when we really take to this Krishna consciousness, it takes us to higher and higher levels. At all point of time, it leads us to a very, very blissful life. It could be poison in the beginning because we are not used to it, we are not conditioned to it, getting up early or like okay, doing anything like okay, offering bhoga or so. But as we continue to do it, this nectar at the end. So with that, I will stop this here. I want to ask if anyone has any questions or any comments, um, and then go from there. Any question, comments, or any suggestions that any of you have? Hare Krishna. I don't hear anything. So I hope you are all listening. Okay. Fine. All right. I think I will take it that, okay, you may be assimilating this. If you have any questions or so, you can let me know in the group. You can share that, and then we can address that next week. So we'll stop here. And if you have any questions, comments, you can let us know, and then we can go from there. So just before I'll stop the recording here.